My name is Carl Sharp. I live here in Ouachita Parish. I've always lived here in Ouachita Parish. Let me introduce everybody else at the table. To my right is my son, James Robert Sharp, who's named after my father, and who's named after the father of my wife, who is behind me. My wife is named Betty. To my left is my brother, Alvin, the Reverend Dr. Judge Alvin Sharp. Behind him is my sister, Etheldra Christelle Sharp. Next to my sister is my brother, Cecil James Sharp. And at the front is Monty Sharp.
Fond memory that I had was saving money in an Alka-Seltzer jar to have for the movie like that. They said,
oh yeah.
That was at the Twin City Mall. And there were two stores that I just had to go to. One was a store called Morgan and Lindsay.
Yeah.
That was the store to go to. You remember West?
Yeah.
It was nothing like going to a West department store or West store, I forgot it was where, to get school clothes.
Nothing was as exciting as the Howard Griffin toy store. Oh yeah, and it was lit up like, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower every Christmas. And you knew Christmas was here because of that gigantic Santa Claus on top of the Sears building.
The Sears Christmas catalog. When that came out,
Everything
stopped.
The Palace Annex, that's one I used to like to go to with Mom. I think that's maybe the beginning of my love for fabrics. I remember just going in there, just feeling the fabrics and stuff.
Twin City Mall opened up in 1965, but before that, it was downtown. Yeah, it was exciting when the mall opened, but later on, I felt this kind of sense of loss downtown. The Palace had elevators and an elevator operator, and it seemed kind of big city to us. Louisiana Purchase Gardens is does anybody remember when it opened up? Mama took us to it, and there were all these speeches. I do remember this feeling while we were watching these ceremonies that Monroe was a big deal.
Delta Airlines started right down the street from where we lived.
It was a crop dusting service.
Was the stadium up there?
Yes.
And we used to go down there and climb into the planes and pretend like we were driving.
In the case they take off and you see the crop dusters go here, there.
Also, downtown were theaters. We were young and we were at the edge, or at this twilight zone between segregation and desegregation. I think we felt it a little bit. For example, the theater downtown, I think the largest and grandest theater was the Paramount Theater. People of color now were required to go into the balcony. That changed about 1968, I remember, because I went to see a movie that starred Steve McQueen. It was called Bullet. For the first time, we were allowed to go, we're not required to go in the balcony. From a distance, it may seem rather traumatic, but it didn't seem traumatic to us at the time. We were in it, but we were not exposed to the raw edges of it.
We were on a little bit of the edge of the raw edge, if you want to call it, because I think you and I were the first ones that went to Ouachita Junior High. He and I were the only black people there. I will never forget when I heard that there were 600 kids in the whole school, and we were the only 2 black kids there.
But we were going through some changes, but also the teachers and the parents of the other students were going through some changes also. And all of those people were responsible for keeping the lid on this powder keg.
See, I grew up largely oblivious to that. When I grew up, it was just normal. I remember going to Ouachita Elementary School at 2nd grade. I was the only black kid in elementary school. I don't really know that I had any sense that anything was odd about that or right or wrong about that. That's just the way it was.
My experience was a little combination of these two. The experience coming from an all-black educational environment to a predominantly white educational environment for me was one of challenge. I went from Mount Nebo kindergarten to the 1st grade. But when I got to Washington, they moved me over immediately to what was known as the remedial section. I didn't know what that was, but I knew what they was trying to teach. I already knew. When I got to the 2nd grade, there was a teacher named Miss Carter, and Miss Carter knew I could read, and she gave me Les Miserables. I mean, it was like that thing. And I'm like, I can't read this, Miss Carter. She said, yes, you can. And she says, I'm gonna help you. And what I learned, she was trying to tell me right then that I could do whatever I wanted to do. I just need to try hard and keep back.
I was running track
and they were reconstructing the track. I tripped on a stake in the ground. And my thumb was hurting, I didn't look at it. And then I finally looked down and it went that way, and Miss Gardy came, and she grabbed it, and she took it to the hospital.
There were difficulties, and there was friction, and there was hostility. But there were also these acts of, I guess you call them kindness and protection.